Welcome back to Trails, Tales and Fails, the podcast that dives headfirst into the highs, lows and the gloriously absurd moments of ultra running. I'm your host Max, and today myself, Rob and Sarah are spotlighting a race that doesn't just break runners, it builds legends, the Montane Summer Spine. Our guest is the inspirational Gillian McGale, a Scottish ultra runner who just completed her first ever attempt at the full Summer Spine, and not only survived, but she finished it. That's 268 miles of unforgiving trail along the Pennine Way, with 10,700 metres of elevation gain and descent, covered in just under 156 hours. Imagine climbing Everest and then having to go down it, with little steep, trashed feet, and your sanity dangling somewhere between hallucinations and determination. Her journey to this moment was anything but overnight, with finishes at the Glen Ogle 33, the West Highland Way, Highland Fling, Lakeland 50 and 100 under her belt. She has built this brick by brick. In this episode, we'll dig into how she trained for the epic adventure, how she held it together through the dark stretches, mentally and literally. And we've also just launched the Trails, Tales and Fails Facebook community group, a space for listeners to ask questions, share stories and connect with each other between episodes. The link for that is in this episode description. Come and join us. As always, if you enjoy the podcast, please give us a 5-star review and share it with your ultra-loving mates on socials. It really helps us grow the community. This was an epic episode to record, and we hope that you find lots of inspiration in there. Hope you enjoy. Jill, hello. Welcome to the podcast.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me along.
Well, you were a strong recommendation from Debbie, MC. And then, we were just talking about before we started. It was great to briefly meet you under fairly chaotic circumstances whilst you were supporting the Lakeland runners at Ambleside. With that in mind, I was like, Debbie said you would be a great person to chat to. Just met you, so send you a message, and here we are chatting.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, Debbie probably mentioned that. I mean, I do like to talk. She's perhaps, maybe that's why she's recommended me. It's good to chat.
Yeah, definitely, especially after all things epic spine that you have just completed fairly recently, and we'll get into all of that shortly. But before we our usual chat to the start with an icebreaker question, so I'm gonna kick it off with, and we have an array of answers for this one, so we're super excited to hear what you say. If you had to pick a celebrity to pace you for 268 miles and 10,700 meters of ascent and descent, who would it be and why?
Right. I struggled a wee bit with this, I'll be honest with you, and I think the reason I struggled was because of the distance. If it was, okay, no disrespect, but if it was only a 5k, then you would give different answers. So I did think, right, it's quite a long time and it's quite a long distance. It needs to be somebody that I can really tolerate more than 5k. So I kind of was like Gary Lightbody from Snow Patrol, because I was like, he could just sing to me. Like, he could just sing the distance and just keep hitting. And then I thought, but would he actually inspire me if I wanted some chat? He probably would. So I hope I don't let you down, because this is probably one that a lot of people may have mentioned, but it's got to be Jasmine Paris, MBE. It's got to be Jasmine. I've thought about the kind of usuals and loads of different ones, but each time it's brought me back to Jasmine. Obviously a remarkable achievements, but for me it kind of stuck with the Barclays, and I think I sort of touched into that, and we'll obviously go on and speak about my spine race, but knowing how hard it was for her and knowing she had 99 seconds to complete, she took it to the wire. I went to an evening in Edinburgh a few months ago. It was kind of an event with Jasmine, and she just spoke about the spine and she spoke about different things, and she just came across as really down to earth and normal and humble, and you could just connect with her. So I don't think I would have any problems. I would obviously not be able to keep up with her, right? But putting that aside, having her by my side and chatting, inspiring me, giving me little pointers, and when things get hard, she'd be the perfect person to lift me. And I would just say, actually, she sent me a little message during the race via one of my friends. She actually posted on my, so you get mail within the spine, you get that people can leave little messages on the tracker. So she did that, but she also sent a message via a friend when it was getting a little bit tricky, shall we say, which was pretty phenomenal. So I just need to go with Jasmine.
Amazing.
Really special.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I saw on your Instagram like a little personal note that she'd done to you as well. Was that when you met her at that evening?
It was. I had she'd autographed a book, the David Miller book with the photographs from Barclay, and she was like, "Oh, what will I put?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know." And she just wrote, "Good luck with the spine, Jasmine," and it was enough. It was a few words, but meant a lot. Meant a lot.
Did I'm going off script already, which I'll probably get in trouble for, but as you were doing the race, how much did her achievement and your interactions with her just keep spurring you on to finish?
It did a few times. It was just that having the message from someone like Jasmine, but then as it was getting closer, I mean, as I say, we'll speak about it, I didn't quite plan to take it quite so close to the wire, but I did. And as that was becoming clear, I just kept thinking about the 99 second, and I thought, how must she have felt to be that close? And there's still that question mark over, is she actually going to finish? And retrospectively, I've had quite a few folk that have obviously kind of said that to me. There was a wee bit of a moment of, oh dear goodness, it's getting too close to the wire now, you know. So yeah, she was on my mind.
Yeah, mate, yeah. Well, what a special answer.
And if it was a 5K, have you got an answer for that?
Snow Patrol.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I was listening, Gillian. I was listening.
Are there any Snow Patrol songs that are just about long enough for a 5K?
Run has always been my favourite, even before I started running, so it's just ironic. So it's always been Run. That's been my favourite Snow Patrol song. So yeah, I would happily take Gary along for a 5K.
Perfect. So yeah, second icebreaker. We've gone off topic quite a bit, but we'll get this in. So guilty pleasure whilst out ultra running. So it can be a snack, a tune, or a habit that gets you through the hard bits.
Well, as you may or may not know, I'm coached by Debbie Martin Kinsani, and over the years, she's obviously very good at her trade, and I have this sort of mental toolbox that I tap into as and when, and one of the things Debbie has taught me, and I don't use it that often, but when things get hard, I do, and it's numbers. Think of a number and count to that number as many times as you need to count, and that to that number to bring yourself out wherever you are. So for me, I lost my dad 6 years ago. His birthday was the 22nd, so my number's always been 22. And I'll tell you, there was a lot of counting to the number 22. So I'll just count to 22. When I get to it, I start again, and I keep doing it until my mindset just gets me back to where I should be.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
I think, did she say hers was 21?
It is 21.
That's
her son's birthday. Well remembered, Max. Well remembered.
Yeah, no, she did mention it. I've got to say, on the race that I did recently, I also had a number that just helps you bring back to centre. Yeah, it's a very good thing to have in your toolbox. And thank you for sharing that, because that's Do
you start while you're counting? Does it start to line up with your pace? Because I generally find that I'll be going through song lyrics, but it will line up with as my feet hit the ground. So the pace of the song will change to the pace I'm running at.
Usually, I could say yes, but I will say a couple of miles out of Kirkyeton, absolutely not, or else there would be a massive gap between 1 and then there would be like 10 seconds before I hit 2 because the footsteps were becoming very, very spaced out, shall we say. So in normal circumstances, I could have that little like pace going 1, 2, 3, but in the last couple of miles to Cartier, it maybe was getting to 1 and then there was a massive gap before we hit the 2. So yeah, it really depends. Normally it would, but that one, there was a bigger gap, shall we say.
Oh, good stuff. So yeah, obviously we keep sort of pinging the spine chat down the road a little bit, but we'll just get on to sort of how your ultra running journey started, if you don't mind. So first of all, how did you get into ultra running in the first place?
Just the usual, you would run your normal distances, then you get to marathon, and then you go and have that little tiny little moment of, but what if, could I, really, should I, why should I, will I, is that bonkers? So yeah, just sort of gradually took it up. I think my first one was Glen Ogle, which was 33 miles, just to see, because I sort of thought, well, what happens when you pass 26.2? Do you just collapse in a heap? Does your body shut down? What happens? And then from there gradually moved, and obviously being up in Scotland, you have to do the traditional, the Highland Fling, like the first half of the West Highland Way. Moved it on to the West Highland Way. Having ticked that box, then I was like, and Debbie was kind of saying about Lakeland, and I thought, but I'm not a person that normally wings things. I always like to do 2 halves if I can, so I never jumped straight to Lakeland 100. Did Lakeland 50, Lakeland 100, and then that moved me over to the spine. So,
do you ever sort of look back and wonder, back when you first did that 50k, you kind of wish that somebody just told you how mental ultra running can get?
No, because I'm quite stubborn. Like, I think that person probably is my husband, because he would be at the finish line and he would kind of just have this look of, okay, we've ticked the box, are we done? And I think he hoped after West Highland Way, and he was like, oh no, she's gone again. After Lakeland 100, he was kind of like, right, that's it. And then when the spine chat very gradually crept about, he was just like, oh dear Lord, like, when is she actually going to stop? So, yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, I think my family have they've given up with this.
Yeah.
I've hit the 100 and they're like, yeah, when's 200? 200's coming.
Yeah.
So I guess thinking about the races that you've done, maybe the more what's the word I'm looking for? Organic way to do the full spine might be to do like the sprint followed by the south, followed by north. But my understanding is you just went straight into the full spine. Is that correct? And what made you make that decision?
Again, obviously Debbie's creeping up in here round about. I mean, I've been friends with her for many years and coached by her as well. And that came about from, I was doing a recce Coniston to Buttonmere just about a month before the Lakeland 100. And we were chatting about next year and what we would do and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I think you should just put in for the spine. And I said, absolutely not. I said, I'm not a winger. I'm not a person that will just fly by the seat of my pants. I says, no, I'll think about the half, or I'll do the north, and I need to put it together. And that would just be completely stupid. I know all runners are a bit bonkers, but going from Lakeland 100 to doing the spine without doing the little bits to put together, no. So I had it planned out 2025, 26, 20, and Debbie was just like, I knew she was just absolutely like not even listening. And the icing on the cake, it was my 50th birthday, the day the spine started. So I wasn't getting away from doing the north, because she just kept saying, but that's not your birthday. Your birthday doesn't fall on the Saturday. It doesn't fall on the birthday is on the Sunday. You need to do it. So
it sounds like with a lot of love, there's a little bit of a peer pressure, but all with love. With love.
It was absolutely. But as much as I kept saying, no, I'm not doing that. Absolutely, I'm not doing that. There was always this wee thing in my mind going, but what if I could? So that's how I went straight into it.
So with that, what made you feel ready? Because it's such a big event, like whether it's the training, the kit, the race itself, the event itself. What made you feel ready to tackle it with the training and the mindset, and how long was that process before? I guess yeah.
Yeah, I did the 100, so I'd entered it and I knew I had my place before Lakeland 100 last year, but I only told 1 or 2 people that actually knew, because again, you've got that pressure and you've got that, and no matter what, I'm not the type of person that'll go out there like kind of cocky about it or thinking, oh, I can do this. I didn't know what was going to happen at Lakeland 100, so I certainly didn't want to go out there DNF for whatever reason and then thinking I've got the spine coming up as well, you know. But for me, I'm a person that will recce something and turn it inside out and upside down as many times as I need to. I know everyone, like logistics, money, I know there's a lot of barriers for people, but I would definitely say if you can do it, then absolutely do it. So I spent many, many months, really since last October, I think I sort of started, and I managed to cover 211 miles of the spine route, wrecking it.
Wow.
And that
how
for
far
me,
from home? How did you even manage that?
Well, got a husband who sort of just goes, oh dear Lord, what are we doing now? And I would just sit with the map. I've never read a map as much as I have in my life, and I was sitting looking at the map, and I would just sort of work out, count the squares, count the kilometres, put that into miles, and then think if I can go from there to there in one day, and then just look at the names of places like little villages. And it's weird because I've came across so many places that I would never have gone like for a weekend, or I never would have seen them. But if I was doing 20 miles one day, and wherever it was like, that's where I'm staying. So we would go down, and then my husband, like the next day, I would go and do another 20 miles or 30 miles, and then he would drive and then get me, and then we stayed in some lovely places, we stayed in some not so lovely places, but I put it all together. And yeah, so it was only the first section I hadn't wrecked was Edale to Hebden, and for me it made a massive difference having seen and made a few mistakes and had a few bad days out there on the Pennine Way, because probably doing a recce in November on my own, and it went really badly wrong, and I was like, oh, I'm not doing this race. So yeah, I think it's been that getting comfortable with being very uncomfortable, and facing your fears, you know.
Yeah.
And I faced quite a few of them.
And a super supportive husband to make it all work, and sold too with the different places to stay along the way. I gotcha. I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, we're just in the process of having these sorts of conversations.
I'll take some tips off air, Gillian.
It's very helpful having one of the helpful sausages, trust me.
Okay, awesome. Right, so I believe that you've got 3 statements for us, which could either be true or it could be a lie. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Fab. So how this normally works is we have a little competition between the 3 of us.
Okay.
And you tell us the statement, but you don't reveal until right at the very end, and we've heard all 3 statements, whether it's true or which ones are true and which ones are lies. So it gets competitive. It can get quite competitive.
Okay.
So I'm just going to write a little scoring chart. So Sarah, Rob,
are you easily offended? Because Debbie did, and I wasn't on that episode and listening in, and I had so many questions about her putting her hand in poo that these guys just didn't even ask. And I was like, was it your poo? Like, I had so many questions. So I'm just going to go in.
Oh, do I get questions on my statements as well? All right, okay. Can I just ask who's currently in the lead at the moment with this competition?
I think I'm in the lead.
Oh, I don't know. I think we don't tend to keep like a score, an all-time score, but I feel like we should have done.
Yeah,
I think.
But I think
we'll assume it's me.
Yeah, normally it's me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would love to win this one. Just saying. Right, we're ready.
Okay, can we have statement number 1, please?
Okay. So, in 2023, when the clocks went back in the October, my local park run they ran their course in reverse. But apart from the course going in reverse, I also ran it backwards.
Oh, great one.
That's a good one.
Did you trip up?
I made sure my shoelaces were tied very tight.
Did you do it with anybody?
Only the people that were like going the right way in reverse.
5.
You're doing 5K
backwards.
back in reverse backwards.
Do you know what your time or your position was?
Yes, but I think if I declared that, that would be too much of a clue.
Okay.
Now, if it's a lie, that's a great answer.
Did you fall over?
No, we've got
I've asked
Sarah
that.
asked that.
Did you
No.
trip anyone else over? Something must have gone wrong.
No, because people kept well away from me.
Did the
Would you
tail walkers
actually
have
line
anything
up
to
with
say?
someone? Like, no, I kept a wide berth. I was that person with like 3 dogs in a pram kind of idea,
Do your part run do it every year, doing it reverse on the day that the clocks change?
The clocks, yes.
I'm looking in.
Okay. Rob,
Yeah.
Rob, what are you going for?
Oh, we're going to give the answers now?
Yeah.
No. You're going to guess.
Okay.
And then we'll get the answers at the end.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say, I mean, you seem nuts. You're obviously nuts to have done the spine. So I'm going to say this is true.
Yeah, I'm looking in true. I'm looking in true.
I think the only reason why Rob said that, Joe, is because I've shared on the group. I shared on the group your Instagram reel from the spine.
Yeah,
And,
lovely.
but yeah. So
Yeah, that's fine.
obviously,
But anyone that does the spine is
Is
pretty
nuts.
nuts.
Yeah.
I think anybody that does ultras is nuts. Sarah, have you looked at it?
Yeah, true.
I'm also going to go. Just to be different, I'm going to go false.
Okay, but do you think it's false? Like, go with what you think it is.
I'm going to go true.
Right, okay.
Okay, statement number 2, please.
Statement number 2, okay? I got married in 2016, and after our wedding, we went to a celebration over in Rome called the Sposa Novelli, and it's a mass for newlyweds. And we took over some gifts for Pope Francis, and I waited to the very end, and we handed over our gifts, and I asked for a hug from Pope Francis, and I was given a hug by Pope.
Wow.
Oh gosh, I feel like that's very detailed. To be
Yeah,
a
and
lie.
also, like if you lied on this one, you think, oh gosh, she lied on the Pope. Okay, I'm a hugger, Gillian. So,
I'm a hugger.
what was the hug like? Was it like? Was it like a tap tap tap?
No, I think it was a good hug. Even though there was security, and the Swiss guards, I very openly put my arms in. I didn't like bringe. It wasn't like a, oh, lovely to meet you, like on top of you hug. It was a, I am here, I would like a hug. And once it was allowed, it was then a proper hug.
And did he look surprised when you asked for a hug?
A little bit. The guards were more surprised, to be honest.
What did he smell like?
It's the Pope. He didn't smell, Rob. I don't think he had on like an aftershave like Hugo Boss or anything.
I just thought he might have, links or something.
Actually, that's a good question.
And what does the Pope smell like? I always wonder this. And the Queen as well. What would the Queen have smelled like?
I've not hugged the Queen.
No.
Okay, I'm gonna lock in.
So he didn't smell.
I'm gonna go with I believe parts to the story.
Oh, I see what you're doing here.
But I'm not sure that it just doesn't seem plausible that you can just get to the Pope to give him a hug.
Was there a barrier between you?
Yes.
I'm going false.
Yeah, like you make a good point about being that close to him. Like he's
Right, let's go.
all right. Okay. But I'm gonna go true. I'm gonna go true because I'd like it to be true. As a hugger and as a connection, I'd like it to be true.
Nah, I'm going to say false. If you're hugging the Pope, you're definitely going to notice if he smelled like old man. So.
Okay.
Last one.
Okay, last one. I've never had a bike. Like when I was a child, I wasn't able to cycle. During the pandemic, I managed to learn how to ride a bike, and within 6 months, I'd gone from learning in Morrison's car park or any other supermarkets are available, because obviously car parks were all closed. There was no cars. I went from that to within 6 months riding 100 miles in a day.
Can you do a wheelie?
Absolutely not.
Can you ride no hands?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, this is true.
Oh my gosh, Rob's turned up. I'm going to keep it quick on this one. I'm going to go true. I believe it.
Okay, I'm gonna do a little bit of a curveball, which I haven't done before, so please let us be okay. I'm gonna go true, and then I'd like to make my first answer false. The park run false. So park run false, true.
Okay.
Okay.
And Rob, are you going true?
100%.
Okay, could we have the answer for statement number 1, please?
Statement number 1, that was the clocks in the park run.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a lot of mints. Sorry, that's false. Who in their right mind would do that? Sorry, guys.
That's false. I got it right because I changed my answer.
It's false.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. Let's see if it could be true.
Okay, and number 2, please.
Number 2 was the Pope. Yep, that's true. I've had the Pope.
That is amazing.
I'm having.
Send you on
That's amazing. I've won this one. Last one,
number 3.
Number 3 is also true.
Yes.
Sarah's.
Sarah
wants something else.
Well done, Sarah.
Thanks, Gillian. Probably quite a big reaction, but it means a lot. They were brilliant, Gillian. Thank you. Really good.
Fab. Okay, so we want to dive a little bit into the race now. So I've got a question about the start. So having just been to Lakeland, where it literally felt like there were there were thousands of people lining the streets. What is the start of the spine like? Because we went to Edale. Oh, Sarah conveniently managed to book it into the end of our holiday. And I think it starts at the school, but whenever you see like the start and the finish of the spine, it just seems to be fairly chilled in comparison. What was it like standing on the start line, and what was the build up like?
Well, to be honest, I'd went down, I think it was on the Friday. We stayed just about 20 minutes away from Edale. So I went over on Saturday morning to see the South Challenger off. I actually found that quite nerve-wracking and like quite emotional, and the faces, there were quite a few faces that looked petrified. So spent a bit of time just kind of getting the feel for that on the Saturday, and then when I went on the Sunday, obviously for the start of the spine, I don't know, and I was feeling really relaxed. It wasn't anything like Lakeland, nothing at all like that feeling. It was, I was going to say it feels more like a funeral, but it was like, it was just very subdued. And like, I went into the briefing, and I remember the chap doing the briefing, and it's right next to the start line on the field, and he had the whiteboard up, and the very last thing he'd said at it was, and he put it in capital letters, just be bothered, be bothered. And those 2 words, it's as though they just imprinted on my brain for like the next 5 or 6 days. Because it was just any time you thought about something or you thought, oh, I can't be annoyed, it was like, just be bothered, because if you're doing, yourself, if you don't fix something straight away or do something straight away, the repercussions that can happen. So, yeah, I did the briefing, and then the way I was treating it, I just treated it like a recce. See, because it was my birthday and I had my badge on, and I was just like, well, I've not seen this section. This is going to be 43 or 46 miles to Hebden of complete unknown for me. And I decided that I was on a recce, and these other folk were just joining me on my recce. So I never once stood there petrified thinking, oh dear Lord, I've got 268 miles. It was very relaxed. I was more probably anxious and uptight at Lake 100.
So you just like totally reframe the whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep. That's a good way of doing it.
And there's not that many people either. It's very low. Well, it's low key in comparison to Lake 100. And it was a beautiful morning. You're in the field and people are just like, kind of milling about and then ready. So there's no like pens and stuff where you're all kind of, it's like 10 minutes before start. You then start moving across in the field and ready to go. So, I found it quite calming.
Oh, awesome. We just did only the first 5 mile stretch from Edale, and it's like, yeah, you could just tell just from that first 5 miles that some of the scenery is just going to be absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Epic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned obviously breaking it down between checkpoints. Obviously, the distance between some of those checkpoints can be up to sort of 45 miles. So, yeah, how do you sort of process that? Obviously, because, you know, each checkpoint is an ultra by itself. If you're
Yeah.
anything like me, you'll sort of go burning through the checkpoints, not having the kit you need. You know how?
I don't think she's like you, Rob.
No, I'm genuinely quite interested to know sort of how you make sure you've got the right stuff for the distance between the checkpoints.
Well, again, this kind of brings me back to my recce's, because I had recce's apart from like the first part, but thereafter, having did those recce's and knowing like where there was food, where there was availability to get water outside taps. There's chats and stuff like go on in WhatsApp, which are great, but sometimes it's information overload, because I'm like, and also talking about places, if you've never been there, then it means absolutely nothing to me, and my brain would not register, oh, there's a water tap at 68 miles, that wouldn't go in for me. But because I'd done my recce's, what I then had at each checkpoint, I laminated, and this probably sounds a bit too much, however, I had a laminated A4 sheet for each checkpoint, which I tagged and like obviously named checkpoint 1, Hebden, what am I doing, had my wee list, just bullet points, maybe 5 or 6 bullet points to make sure I knew, make sure you've got all these things done. But then at the bottom, I had a list that would then say maybe 10 miles to like Laudersdale, or 15 miles to the next. And then, so I then broke it down. So I had maybe 4 or 5 bullet points at the bottom, which told me the different little villages or towns or where an outside tap was. Now, obviously, you don't really know. A lot of these places might, depending on when you get there, could be closed. So there's no point setting your heart on something picking up in Bellingham. You'll go to the co-op, because the co-op might be shut, and you get there at 2 o'clock in the morning. So it was still having that little bit of flexibility, but having those laminated sheets at each checkpoint for me was a massive, massive help, because it was the last thing I looked at when I left each checkpoint. I quickly then just ran through and went, right, I've got 10 miles, and then I've got another 5 miles, and then 6 miles, and I broke it down like that. I never once left thinking, I've done 43, I've only got another 225 miles to go here. I never once put that thought in my head of how far I had to the finish line. It was always, how far have I got before I can top up water, get something to eat, or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's the laminated sheets is just such a brilliant idea. Like, I often get teased for my level of detail by one person sitting next to me, but I just kind of think that if you're going to dedicate yourself to like 6, 9, 12 months of training, and working hard 5-6 days a week over and over again, why would you not be detailed in like your race preparation? Because it just doesn't seem like there's any point in cutting corners on those sorts of details when you put in like a year's worth of work. But yeah, definitely, I think if you're especially getting further into the race and then like tiredness becomes an issue, just having that like laminated sheets with exactly what you need to be leaving with is just like such a invaluable tool to have.
Yeah, and it was a little comfort blanket as well, because although you were leaving thinking, oh, it might be, as you say, 40 odd mile to the next checkpoint, but I knew, well, I've only got 10 miles to go, and that'll be there, and in another few miles that'll be there, or there's like a little honesty box, or so you knew that these wee pockets were along that section. Whereas, I'd done them in recce's, and probably now I won't even remember, but actually being there, so come the first, second, see by the 4th day, you forget actually who you are and your own date of birth. Never mind thinking, oh, what's coming up in this section, do you know? So I found that invaluable, just having those wee pointers. And it was just that wee safety net of going, right, well, I can drink all my water because I know there's an outside tap, and I can pick up and top up from there and stuff like that, you know.
And what sort of foods were you relying on between checkpoints?
I am a wee bit like Paddington, right? But instead of marmalade sandwiches, I have jam sandwiches. Folk do laugh, but I went from Edale to Hebden on jam sandwiches. And they need to be crustless bread, jam sandwiches, and salty potatoes. I love salted potatoes. I think it was one of the mountain rescue guys. They had a little tent somewhere, and they'd offered me some water or something, which was fine. And as I moved on, I heard them saying to the next person, "Oh, we've got potatoes." And honestly, I was like the Roadrunner. Do you know that way? My head turned around like the Exorcist, and I was like, "Potatoes, potatoes!" And went back for these potatoes. So they were my kind of my start off, shall we say, kind of the first kind of 40, 50 miles. And then after that, it was the usual. But I was eating normal food, like croissants and like, I don't know if you can name brands, but I was eating kind of like the flapjacks and the normal stuff. And I never really touched into gels to the last day, simply because I always thought the longer I can keep eating normal food, the better. You know, I didn't want to go down the gel route. Like,
jam sandwiches is a great shout.
It's a win-win. So move in any ultra, there's always going to be some hard stretches. Which, you know, wherever anything past, you know, any distance, there are going to be hard stretches on runs. But in 268, there are certainly going to be some hard stretches. So when you were close to, and you have mentioned as in like just it's really cracking or finding it too much, how did you manage to hold it together? Other than you mentioned the counting, but were there any other like strategies that you used to like just let's get this done?
I think I have just got this sort of really determination and resilience, and unless something major happened or I was told I was getting pulled, then there was just nothing was going to stop me from getting to Kirkgetton. The section Bellingham to Burness, which I think is only 15 mile, it's 15 mile. I'd recce'd that and I'd loved it and it was great. And I'd set off from Bellingham, and that section, I don't know if you guys have been on it, it's just like a dirt track, right? I mean, I'm quite renowned for getting lost. I'll get lost anywhere, right? Anywhere. But this was a straight road, and it was just like Christmas trees on either side of you. Nothing could go wrong, right? Zero. So, and I had my heart set on the little church in Burness, because I had timed it that I thought I'm going to get there, I'm going to take 3 hours, reset, that'll be during the night, I'll get up, the sun will be rising, and all I've got to do is do 26 miles to Kirkgetton. However, going along that track, you're going straight, it's no difficult, but I fell asleep. So I fell asleep on my feet, and I knew I was sort of like swaying, and I turned on myself, and I've looked at it on Strava. So there must have been, I think, 3 or 4 times where I've gone up and down and up and down on the exact same path. And it was the middle of the night. I mean, and there's nothing, it's not like you've got like a clock tower, or there is not a focal point where you can then go, that's on my right. That, you know, there's nothing, there's just trees. So I kept going back up and down, and I didn't realise I was doing it. And then all of a sudden these midges, I mean, I can deal with midges, we're in Scotland, but I've never had anything like this in my life. I actually could feel them like getting in my eyeballs. I mean, it was awful. And I very quickly, someone had suggested a net, and I was like, who's going to bother with a net? Well, I was like tearing this bag apart to get this net, puts the net on, and I was like that, right, okay. I mean, obviously then that really woke me up. And I'm then back on track, as I thought, sees another runner, and I thought it was really helpful. I was like, excuse me, I was like, you're going the wrong way. And he's like, you're going the wrong way. And I was just like, oh dear Lord. And that was really hard. That section was the point of, I knew I was breaking. And I'd got into Burness, had a couple, I tried to get tea, and I had noodles that I was trying to add hot water. I had this net on, you're standing outside, and it was just, it was awful. One of the marshals said to me, go into the disabled toilet. There's like Forestry Commission kind of style wooden, like, or little toilets. So I get put in there with the cockroaches and a few beetles and other lovely things. And that did smell, by the way, Rob, just in case you're wondering if like I can smell some things. That was reeking or boufing, choose any of the words. And I was in and out there as quick as I could. And then I came out. So this was it was dark. It was the middle of the night, and I get lost. I left there, and I should have just went over into the church, and I ended up in a forest. And I think I was about an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes just wandering. One of my friends, she lives in Monaco, so she was phoning my husband to say, like, something's went really badly wrong, like you need to get her. And I can't remember if I phoned him or he phoned me, but we spoke, and at that point I cracked. That was at the point where I went, I'm not doing it. I can't do it. My feet were horrific. My feet were so painful and covered in blisters, and that was the point where I went, like, I really, really broke down. And he was like, that phone headquarters, but please don't quit. And I was just like, oh. So, and one of my friends, Catherine Cowie, she won't mind me saying, she had done it last year and she DNF'd at Burness. So she DNF'd at 240 miles. So she was on my mind. Super happy to say she went back this year and she completed. She got to Kirkyetom. But at that moment in time, I phoned headquarters and a helpful chap asked me to take my compass out and do a reading to get me back on track. I decided to go back to the tent where I'd got my cup of tea. And yeah, they were like, they thought I'd been for a sleep, came back, and then I was ready to go. And I went, no, I've not been to the church. And they were like, well, where have you been? And I said, I've been lost. But at that point, I was breaking my heart. And they said, we'll put you back in the disabled toilet. There's 4 other runners coming. When they come, we'll let you know and you just go with them. So I said, right. They said, it might be an hour. So I went back in the disabled toilet because at that point you just do what you're told. And I waited. And then it was back at 4. The door got opened and one of the mountain rescue team, we had a chat and I'd said, because he's like, you're the last runner. No, that wouldn't bother me. But I said, oh no, there's 4 people coming. And he's like, no, they've been rescued. He said, so it's you. And I went, all right. But he was kind of looking at his watch and he's like that, oh, I hear you got lost earlier and do you know the time? And my heart sank because I just thought, I need to get a move on here. So I was like that, right? I said, I just need to get going. So it was obviously daylight. I came out of that disabled toilet, went round a wee bit of the village and there was the church. And honestly, I took one look at it and I went inside, but it was heartbreaking because I went in and there was obviously nobody there. It was super toasty. It was lovely. And I thought if I'd planned this properly, I would have 2 or 3 hours sleep here. And I was so close to it, but just never got to it like when I should have. And that mentally and physically, because my feet were really bad. And I stood in that and I just looked at the pews and I just looked and I thought, well, what am I going to do? And I was just like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to kneel down and I'm going to say a little prayer to whoever's going to listen to me and I'm getting out of here. So I had to have my church experience. For me, the church meant an awful lot to get in there. Got my church experience and then I was like, right, I'm out again. So that was probably my lowest point of the race. But yeah, it was very, very hard. Then you went that length of time and you're thinking, oh, it's over, I can't do it. And then I was like, no, wait a wee minute. I'm not coming this far to not get this job done, you know? So
yeah, that sounds, yeah, what a story. And yeah.
Jesus Christ, that's the worst story I've ever heard. How the hell did you overcome that? I was going to say, I get upset, text the missus, just saying, oh, I'm going up a hill and I'm a bit emotional. I'd be having a meltdown at that point. I don't know how you carried it.
Don't worry, the meltdown was there, and when I phoned my husband, I mean, I was just screaming at him, and I was like, I can't do it, I'm done, come and get me, whenever you can, just come and find me. And it was really hard, really, that was my lowest point.
Oh, gosh.
How much time did that take up?
That was a good few hours. That was probably.
And how much time did you wait for the 4 runners that had been rescued? So essentially, you just lost that time.
That was probably an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Jeez.
I was gutted because for me, see if I'd even just been in the church and waiting, then I would have had my shoes off. I would have slept. I would have had heat. I would have been in a better place. But the place I was in really, literally was like solitary confinement. It was ranked, and I had these cockroaches, and I was just like, what am I doing, do you know? And I did take a wee video of myself and sent it to him. I haven't watched it and I don't think I ever will watch it. I sent it to my husband. Well, don't get me wrong, he'll get upset over Gardener's World or something. See somebody that gets a makeover in their garden, he'll get emotional over anything, right? But he said he never sent it to my mum. He was like, that one was heartbreaking. I mean, I'd sent a few during the week that were just completely stupid, do you know, because I think I was just like bored at one point. But that one sitting in there, because there's no light, so all you've got is your own head torch. So even when you turn that off, it was like completely dark. So that was hard. That was a wee hard bit.
So on the subject of sleep,
Yep.
you sort of said towards the end of the race you might have actually had a sleep had you had more time.
Yep.
I think different people have different strategies to how they plan sleep around the spine. Like some people will deliberately book in sleep at certain points or try and book in sleep at certain points, and other people will just sort of go with it and go for as long as they can before they need to sleep. What was your approach to sleep? Like, is it something that you just rolled with? How long did you aim for? How much did you get in total?
My plan was to get, well, after Lakeland 100, I knew that I could go like 40 odd hours with no sleep. So my plan was to get to Hardraw. So that would be the second checkpoint. That's about 110 miles. My plan was to get to there, and they have little individual tents at a couple of the checkpoints, which I've just fallen in love with. Like, I love these wee tents. And I'd never experienced this whole camping thing either. So my plan was to get to there and get like 3 or 4 hours proper sleep. And then thereafter it was like sleeping at checkpoints was my plan. But very quickly, because my feet, the blisters, things went wrong basically from Hebden. So unfortunately, yeah, on paper it would look and go, oh, she said a 5-hour stop like at our checkpoint. But when you would go in, you'd maybe have a little wait for a tent, which was fine. So you maybe did your little wait, and then you really could be sitting there, like looking at your drop bag, getting a cup of tea, getting your food. You've not actually opened your drop bag, right? And an hour has just gone, like just disappeared. And then for me, because as the race went on, it wasn't just like the heels that were getting dressed with fleecy web and KT tape, it was each individual toe. So as the race went on, my time in checkpoints was dictated by the time I was having to spend and get help with the medics. The time I should have been sleeping, I was going in, the feet had to get everything had to come off, because like you were going through bog, or if they had got wet, I knew that they had to get stripped off, go in a basin, let them dry for a little while. But I was always conscious of, I can't just give myself an hour to get out of here. I need to, the medic might have had 3 people waiting, so they don't run an appointment system. Do you know what I mean? So I never really switched off to enjoy a sleep, knowing that I had to get their feet dressed again to get me back out the door. So my sleep was the thing that it threw it. It really did throw it. So I was on Hadrian's Wall. I think that must have been the Wednesday or Thursday night, and like that I was tripping over. It was the middle of the night, tripping over my feet, and I had brekkied that section, and I thought, no, I need to stop. So I stopped twice on Hadrian's Wall for just like 15 minutes. If you stop for anything less than 30 minutes, you don't need to phone Spine headquarters, but if you're taking a break over 30 minutes, you need to just phone in. So a couple of times like there, I would just set my alarm on my phone, sit down against the wall and like put my head against my rucksack. But even then, you turn off your head torch, and there was a point where I just sat there and I was completely on my own, and I was like, what am I actually doing? You actually do question your life choices at the points in your life, because when I say I was a little bit scared, obviously nothing's going to happen to me, right? But at the same token, you're still on your own in Hadrian's Wall. So yeah, my sleep, I never got as much at all what I would have wanted and what I needed. And I reckon it was probably just under about 4 hours, I think, over the full course of the 6 days that I was out there. That wasn't my plan.
That sounds horrendous.
Yeah.
I love my sleep, and 4 hours over that sort of distance, just I mean, that's just another
challenge.
Another massive challenge, which just goes to show how resilient you obviously are.
Yeah. Christ, coming off the back of that, so there's an Instagram reel, which is quite a comical one.
Yeah.
We were going to ask sort of any wild hallucinations during this race, but I mean,
on 4 hours sleep.
On 4 hours sleep, I'm assuming there must have been. I mean, there wasn't a disabled toilet. Nobody knows what you're talking about there.
There weren't any, like, Lakeland 100 spooked me. The Lakeland 100, like, that really knocked me for 6, my Lakeland 100 hallucinations. But these ones, and I never expected them till like maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, but they came along on the Monday afternoon, so literally within 24 hours, and they started during the day, which I was like, right, this is new, because Lakeland 100, it was always during the night with your head torch, and I always thought the head torch had something to do with it. But no, they were quite nice. It was just your normal animals and stones and all that. And I had the hallucinations all week. The only time they were becoming a wee bit uncomfortable was that stretch to Burness. See, because the trees were like really, really tall and they were like Christmas trees, they became like Alien, like see that horror film, and these horrible monsters, and they were like starting to encroach and go on top of me and stuff, and they were, but I just had to keep saying, you know, they're not real, they're hallucinations, but it doesn't give you as much comfort as I would like at that point, you know. But I was still hallucinating like for a day or two after the race.
Yeah, because that's quite brutal as well, because I've never really had too much in the way of hallucinations, but like you said earlier on, you're kind of looking for, even if it's just a tap, like I was going to say, what I'm looking for is like a bit of civilization or just some link back to humanity. But you like you say, you see one runner and you can go 40 miles without seeing anybody.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, these trees looking like monsters can be a pretty big issue to deal with.
Yeah, and you hear, the other thing I had, which I've never had before, was I could hear people shouting on me, like, constantly. And at first I'd be like, oh, like turning right, because you wouldn't be rude. If somebody shouts your name, you're going to turn. And I can't tell you the amount of times I turned and there was nobody there. And I was like, this is really getting on my nerves. And I remember it was probably only on the last day that I was actually having a battle with myself, because I was like, I'm not turning. I'm just not. I know there's nobody there because I'm not turning. That became a little bit of a kind of mess up for your brain, you know, just constantly hearing, and there was nobody there, you know.
The thing for me is gates as well. When you hear a gate up ahead and you're like, oh, there must be another runner nearby, and you just never come across that. It's like somebody's there. I know they are because I heard a gate. I'm now at a gate. Where's the runner?
Yep.
So we're looking at like training and takeaways after this. Like, we can only be described as like a monster event. Training for 100. Sorry, 100. Training for 200.
But did Max swap these? Because I was going to ask this question, but I feel like Max has gone dad mode and swapped it round because he thought I was going to say 261. No, and you've gone in at 100.
I've done it. Training for 268 miles when living life. How did you manage it? Because we all know that juggling life is just pretty bonkers, and the training.
To be honest, I didn't find much difference between the training for this than Lakeland 100. My training was very, very similar to Lakeland 100. Obviously, the distance is a lot more, the distance to the race, but training-wise was the same. So it was my normal training run 6 days a week, my long run on a Saturday. The only difference probably I would maybe say is I maybe had more hikes on a Sunday. So if I had my long run on a Saturday, then I'd have, and I'm not really a hiker, to be honest. It kind of, like walking and stuff sometimes bores me. But I would, if I had to go for a hike, I'd be like that, right, where's a hill, where can I go? So yeah, there wasn't much difference between training for Lakeland 100 and this. The only thing is the hiking that came into it.
Just out of curiosity, with your training, do any of your runs start at 5 a.m? And if they do, what time exactly during the hours of 5 and 6 would you go out?
They don't usually. If I was maybe doing a recce or I was maybe travelling, then I'd maybe be out at like 4:30 in the morning to get to somewhere. But physically on my feet, I probably wouldn't be out. It's no any reason. I mean, 5 o'clock would seem pretty normal for me, but I was normally out probably between 6 and 7. I would say is my normal time.
So if you went out, say at 6:10, that would be considered a 6 a.m. run. Yeah.
And if you ran at 5:30 in the morning, would that be considered a 5 a.m. run or a 5:30 a.m. run? If
you went out at 5:30?
Yeah.
I'm really sorry if this is not the answer you're looking for, Sarah, but if you went out at 5:30, that's a 5:30 run.
Right, there we go.
No further questions.
Your Honour.
Well, you need to go out at 5 a.m. for a 5 a.m. run. I'm just saying, to me, that would seem normal. and
You
logical.
Backstory.
So the backstory is that every single day, these two go out running super early, and no matter what time it is, it could be like 1 minute past 5, 20 minutes past 5, 40 minutes past 5. It could be 5:59.
Yes.
It's still labelled on Strava and Instagram as a 5 a.m. run, and I think that's misleading.
I would say so there. Yeah, sorry for
Anyway,
that.
your coach. Go on.
Well, no, I just want to say your coach disagrees with you.
Yeah.
Also, it's not. I just want to clarify. It's not a 5 a.m. run. It's the 5 a.m. club.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true.
The
And I also
5 a.m. club to me would be a slightly misleading if the 5 a.m. club didn't go out to 5:47. Because then I would say, well, that club's actually late because they're due to start at 5. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no.
So would the 5 a.m. club need to finish at 6?
No, you
Would
can
we
finish
hand
it
the
any time
baton
you
over
like.
to the 6 a.m. club?
Finish whenever you like, but if you're a 5 a.m. club, you start at 5 a.m. If you asked me to join the club, I'd be like, yeah, no problem. I would be at your doorstep at 5 a.m. And if you weren't out by 5:03, I would be in your house dragging you out.
Just want to say you're one of my favourite guests.
Okay. This is one of my
Someone
favourite
get Debbie a
podcasts.
call. We get Debbie in on the chat.
No, Debbie was very much on Rob's side and said, if it's in the hour of 5, it is a 5 a.m. club chat.
Oh, was she? Oh, controversial.
Yeah. So I'll let you take that up with her. You sort of mentioned this one.
You gonna go with that one, Rob?
Oh, so you sort of touched on this already. So, what's the ratio between your running and your hiking in a race like the Spine?
In race.
In race?
Yeah, so like during the race, what sort of ratio? And obviously it might look more like running more to start with, more hiking later on. How did you approach it? Because like some people will just go out and just hike the whole thing, won't they?
All right, okay. I think we might need to add in, this might be like the 5 a.m. club. We might have a running stroke, hiking stroke, walking. There might be a bit of that, I think, for me, for this race. Yeah, I mean, the plan was always, I would always walk the hills, always, no matter what. And obviously the first bit to Hebden, I mean, let's face it, that section, I'll take my hat off to anybody that can run that section, like, all the way. There was a lot of hiking in that first section. So yeah, my plan, it was always hike the hills as much as I can and use obviously my poles and just dig deep to kind of save your legs, and run as much as the flats. But obviously as the days went on and the feet got worse, my ratio probably went from running less to hiking more to then hiking less and walking more, is how my week progressed. I would say unfortunately, but I'm not going to say unfortunately because I still got to Kirkgate.
Yeah, I think however you get there, it doesn't matter. Like, how many people can say they've done that? So yeah, how you get there, I think, is immaterial.
Would you say hiking? I think you mentioned you hike some days in your training.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I find so I've had to sort of walk one of my hundreds in. And that's such a mental challenge because of how much slower the miles pass. Would you say the hiking as part of your training is a good?
Definitely, and I think for Lakeland 100, I would probably say I felt stronger because Lakeland 100, I never got one blister, so I had no problems at all with feet. And I do remember for the tail end of that, I was still hiking quite strong. Although I was hiking, I felt strong about it. Whereas for the end of this one, I think my poles became more of a walking aid, like just because my feet were so painful that I was using them more as an aid to just walk and keep moving forward, as opposed to a hike. There was no way I would call my final climb as a hike. It was a very, very painful walk, and the poles were getting me up and over that final hill. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I'd love to know, because we're going to start having these sorts of discussions soon, about kit for various Spine races. Have you got one or two favourite pieces of like what you view as indispensable pieces of kit for the Spine?
Okay, I'm going to laugh here because anybody's hearing this, they know what's going to come. So I'm not going to say it as my first answer and throw a curveball, because everyone listening who have heard it before will say that's what she said. I'm not going to be predictable. I would say an insulated jacket. I borrowed an insulated jacket that got added to the kit list kind of later on. And at first I was kind of like, God, I've got a waterproof, I've got this jacket, I've got that. And I was like, oh, another thing to carry. It wasn't obviously heavy, but it was bulky. So anyway, but I had this and I thought, well, that can go in the bottom of the bag with the, well, I probably shouldn't say the things I shouldn't have used, like the compass, but that was going in the bottom of the bag with the compass and the dog poo kit thing and all that. So that, and the goggles, they were all going in there, but that insulated jacket was a godsend. More so because it was so hot during the week. I mean, every day it was boiling, right? And obviously we never really expected it to be that hot. But then what really surprised me was at night, as soon as like darkness fell, it really was like the curtains got closed and it was freezing, absolutely freezing. And I've never experienced that, and I don't know whether it was because I was out for so long and obviously I'm more tired and I've not, like, obviously I've not eaten as much as you would normally eat. So your body's obviously really cold, but I did feel, and I remember being like in Hadrian's Wall and stuff, where, yeah, it might have been a flaff, but I then kept going back to the 2 wee words of be bothered. Be bothered. So I would dig in that bag and go like that. I know it's at the bottom under like different things, but I'm getting that insulated jacket. That was just, it was like a wee comfort blanket. That was a godsend, and even putting it on at a few of the checkpoints when I was in a little tent, I wasn't getting into a sleeping bag, but even just putting that on and lying down was great. And the other thing I get introduced to, and I'm only laughing because so many folk have heard about this, and I've had like a lot of people asking me about people you don't know get in touch or send you pictures of their feet. But fleecy web. I have never heard of fleecy web. I've never used fleecy web. Fleecy web, now you're kind of all looking at me like, what's going on about?
Max is writing it down so we can research it.
Well, one of my next questions was going to be about the state of your feet.
Well, the feet were awful. But when I entered this race, like whenever, I'd got in touch. Now you might not be surprised by this now, that I started getting my kit put together away last autumn. And when I reached out to the kind of organisers to say, like, I'm looking for the kit, blah blah blah, I was told just use the winter kit list. There's only a few items you won't need, like the gas stove and the gas and all that, but everything else is the exact same. So I started collecting all my items and getting all my little needles, because I was like, oh gosh, where do you get your needles? Why am I needing needles? And all these wee things, and fleecy web was on it. And I'm like, fleecy web? What is fleecy web? I mean, it was just like, but anyway, the kit then got changed again, I think at the turn of the year, and then there was another change to the kit round about March. Again, my husband was like, oh dear Lord, because he would print it off and we would put a date on it to like, that's the updated revised kit, we can bin that kit. And the fleecy web wasn't on it. So I had said, oh, I don't need to bother with fleecy web. They've dropped it. Never gave it a second thought till I was actually doing the race. And it was one of the other runners. I had got into checkpoint 2. Checkpoint 1, the blisters had been covered by KT tape. There was only a couple. Checkpoint 2, I went in. I'm sorry if this is a bit too much, but I got in, and as I took my foot out the shoe, so my sock's still on, but I'm looking at the inside of my right foot, like at the bone, and I was like, what is that? Like, I was like, what is that? And I'm staring at my foot, and it was like a horror film. It was like the size of a golf ball, this blister, but obviously it didn't have the opportunity to actually expand until the foot had been taken out of the shoe, and literally in front of my eyes the thing just grew. So yeah, I'd spoken to a medic, and the medics were amazing, but it's not, at the end of the day, it's not their responsibility to dress your feet, and I'm a great believer, they're your feet, you deal with them. They're there to help you and they can support you, and they do such a fantastic job, but ultimately they're your feet. And it was another runner, he'd said to me, oh, I've got some fleecy web. So I was more intrigued as to, let me see your fleecy web, because I don't even know what it looks like. So he had cut me like a wee bit for me for one of the worst blisters, and popped that on. And then basically for the rest of the week, the medics, when I went in, I had said, listen, I've used the fleecy web, and they said, it's fine, we'll help you, because the feet were quite in a bad way. And if it wasn't for fleecy web, my race would have been over on the Monday. So fleecy web, whether or not it's actually part of a Mandra's kit, I will never go on a long run without that being in my first aid kit. And I can't actually tell you the number of folk, and I do laugh about it, but the number of folk that have reached out to me on different platforms, they also have a need to send me pictures of their feet. I don't need to see pictures of feet. I don't like feet. I don't want to see your feet. I will just recommend you carry fleecy web because it's the best thing ever.
Gillian, I was going to ask, because you've been talking about your feet. I was hoping that I could share a video of my feet after Lakeland, but no, I won't now.
You must.
Oh my god, I had really bad feet after Lakeland, but Rob's just been googling fleecy web, so I think we were going to sort of suddenly add that to our Amazon baskets.
Yep.
You covered like quite. We as you were chatting then, we were like, oh, we're covering we've covered about feet because we've got questions about feet. That's been covered.
I think we've probably covered.
So let's move on. So we do talk about in our podcast, and it's a word that we talk about fails, as in like what we can learn from them, and because I think we can always learn from the failures that we have. So, is there a moment that you can laugh about now? And I know it's still quite soon after the spine, so you might still be in that process, but something that can make you smile, but actually almost break you in that moment. Or you found particularly challenging, or
obviously my first one, my main one would be the experience of Burness going up and down there in the dark. We've covered that. The other thing that really broke me, which I can laugh about, well, there was one wee tiny wee thing just on that feet thing that never broke me, but then nearly broke the person beside me, was in it was in Alton, and that big blister. The others in the feet were bad, but this big one had the fleecy web stuck to it, and one of the medics, like, I'm just laughing because I was next to all the drop bags, and as we took the foot out, sorry. And she was like, oh, we need to dress thee. And I was like, oh, I'm really sorry. And she's like, no, I'll help you. And I was like, oh, I really, really appreciate it. And but she's like, that bit of fleecy web, that's stuck to that blister, and we cannot burst this blister because you shouldn't burst them. You know, it's like, because you've got so much still further to go, and then you could get them infected. And I was like, oh, she went, but we really need to get this off. And I went, it's okay. I was like, it's fine. I was like, just pull it. It'll be totally fine. I don't mind. So she's sitting on the floor. I'm sitting next to all these drop bags. And the next minute, she just pulled it, right? Sorry for being so disgusting, but it just went across this guy's drop bag.
Oh.
Was he there? Was the guy there?
Well, there was a couple of people circling, and I'm like, oh, and my instinct would normally be, I'll try and clean that and cover it up, but the two of us were like a pair of 5-year-olds because she ended up rolling about. I'm just laughing. I mean, it was so vile and so disgusting. I mean, normally I'd have been like, oh, for goodness sake, let's clean that. But no, we just covered that up. So yeah, that was just my little blister. But the other thing I can laugh about that nearly broke me was it was from Dufton to, I was heading, where would I have been going from Dufton? There'll be people sitting going, oh, for goodness sake. But you go over Crossfell, and over Crossfell you pass like a massive big golf ball, as I describe it, at the top of this hill, and it's really like bleak. And I got there, put on my jacket, put on my head torch, but it was still light. And I was like, and I think I was just a wee bit like, oh, I've just got Greg's hut to come, and I'll be fine. So I wasn't kind of worried. But for whatever reason, I had recce'd this part, and I don't know what happened. It became really foggy, like instantly, and it became really dark. And I was like, right, okay. And I was completely in my own. And in my mind, because I sort of like berries and rainbows and butterflies, Greg's hut, I thought I just need to get to Greg's hut because they'll have noodles and I'll have tea and I'll see people and I'll chat. And I was like, just need to get to Greg's hut. So on Crossfell, all of a sudden it became really misty, it became really dark, there was nobody about, and I started to feel that I was having Groundhog Day, and I was like, right, don't panic, just don't panic. And it was midnight. I remember it was midnight because I phoned headquarters and they were doing a changeover, because I went past, it was like I don't know whether it's a trig point, there was a main, not a monument, but there was a main thing on Crossfell, and I came across it 3 times, and I was just like, oh. I was like, and I've got form for this, like when I get lost and stuff, and I was just like, I'm in trouble, right? Because I was like, it's midnight, I don't see like any backlights, we need to carry a red light on our backs as well, so I couldn't even see any backlights. There was nothing, no head torches coming towards me, and I had now went round 3 times in the same bit. And in my mind, I'm like, no, I just need to get to Greg's hut because I'm having noodles and tea. So I phoned headquarters, and I don't like to say I'm lost because that seems a bit negative. So I was just kind of like, hi, how are you? I says, can I just check that I'm not lost? I says, can I just check that I'm on the right path here? And they were like, yeah. I said, it's became really foggy, and like I couldn't see my hand in front of me, and I'd went through a few like bogs, which really annoyed me because then the feet were soaking. So I was like, there goes like my fleecy web and everything I thought was soaking. I was getting more and more frustrated with myself, and the person was like, yeah, just keep going forward. I'm like, I don't actually know what forward is. But anyway, I managed to get to myself, and I saw Greg's hut, and I was like, oh, marvellous. But I was thinking, it's quite dark. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to Greg's hut. It's quite like the iconic, and it's just like a brick bothy, but it's really done up, and it's really quite nice. I've seen it during the day. There's not much happening in it because it is just a bothy. And you go round it to go in. So I went round past the windows, and it was pitch black. But I'm like, where's the noodles? Where's the people? Where's the hot water? Where is everybody? Because I'm in my mind, I had made it a checkpoint. Don't ask me. So I'd opened the first door, and it's like a latch. I opened the door, and in the first room, it's just a concrete floor, 2 windows, and you're looking out the window, and it's pitch black. And there was 3 sets of like poles, like poles. And I'm looking at the poles, and I'm looking about, and it was like a Stephen King horror film, right? Because I was like, where are the people? Like it was like everybody had just disappeared, and I'm thinking, where are the people that own the poles, and where are the noodles, and where's my tea? And then I looked across, and there was a wee bit of light under this door, and I went, oh, they're in there, silly me. So I goes across, opens this door, like, and I mean Breenges, and I'm like, hi, like thinking I'm at a noodle party. And there was just like a row of bodies lying in the bothy, sleeping, like they were all just out for the couch. And I was just like, oh, I'm really sorry. I just pulled this thing. And I sat in a chair, like with the 3 poles, the 3 set of poles. And I just sat there, and I was like, what am I going to do now? And I mean, I laughed and laughed. I mean, it was so stupid. I mean, I was completely on my own. And later on in Alston, I happened to tell this story, and I went, oh, you'll not believe what I done. And the guy and the girl, they both sat, and they went, yeah, that was us, Gillian. It was us that you woke up. We were quite in a good sleep when you just... But I'm really sorry. I'm genuinely really, really sorry. But yeah, that was me. And I think I found out, I think it's only in the winter spine that they use that Greg's hut, and they do have hot water, and they do have noodles, and they do it obviously because it's the winter. So I think I've read it somewhere, and I've just put 2 and 2 together and came up with fine.
I've got a head going for you, like that.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah, so. Yeah. So that nearly broke me, but I can laugh. I mean, I disturbed quite a few folk. It wasn't on purpose, but hey ho.
I'm so glad you got to the finish, because it sounds like a bloody nightmare.
Don't get put off.
Been ticked off, crossed off my list tonight.
I'm just a little bit worried about Ark, and you're just telling me about the spine. The spine's obviously next on the list, and it just sounds like an absolute horror show.
No, don't be put off at all.
Well,
this one here.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'm just really taken aback by just how much of a nightmare you've had. Advice that you would give your younger self regarding ultra running?
I think it would be just have more belief in yourself. I wish I just had more belief. But in saying that, Debbie, many, many years ago, had a great little phrase, and it's always stuck with me. I've got a little book, which I called my fling book, only because I started it training for the fling, thinking it would be a once and done. But instead of that now, all my notes, all my recce's, everything is now in this book. But she had said a saying about find someone who believes in you more than you believe in yourself. And that is just so true. And for me, it always has been Debbie. Never in a million years has someone had said to me, you would put in for the spine, you would do it, and you would complete it. If you'd said that to me 5 years ago, never in my wildest dreams. Whereas she was very much like, because we had a lot of chat about, I was like, there's no way I can do it. I can't do this. I need to do it in 2 halves and then see how I feel and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, do it. put in for it. You can do this. So yeah, probably to my younger self, it would be that, just have that belief.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
But you've got to have a serious amount of belief to get lost, to lose sleep, to have expectations of rest and noodles, and then not get it. It's the amount of knockbacks that you've overcome.
Yeah. And just, there was one other crack. I know that I want to put you off this at all, but in one of my recce's when I was on my own, it was near Slaggyford, back in November, I think, last year. I went into a field, and as I climbed over the stile with my poles in my pack, and I'm on my own, and there was four cows, and there was the one at the front, and it was quite close, and it started snorting, and I'm like, and I chat, because I was like, I'll just talk to this, because this thing will be fine, and it started snorting, and I was like, oh, I don't really like that. Then the tail started swishing. I was like, I'm really not liking this, and then the next minute the hoof went. So this said cow charged me with the other three cows. Now, I've subsequently found out after that it was actually a bull. And I never knew this, because I live in a little world where I thought all bulls had big horns, like in like a matador, and if I had a red flag, it was charged. I never realised, because subsequent people have said, like, did you not check its undercarriage? Well, see if you'd been charged in a field with 4 cows or a bull and 3 cows, I'm not going to stop and looking to see what an undercarriage. I didn't realise that it was a bull. So I'd had a few situations, shall we say, and I was petrified, like really petrified. And Catherine, who had mentioned, we've done quite a few recce's together, and she's got such a lovely manner, and we'd go through a lot of fields, and she would be like, just talk to them and they'll be fine. And okay. So quite a few times, when I did, and I was okay, but I do remember one particular morning, it was back of 6, because the farmer obviously let this herd out, and as I came round this pathway, it was a concrete path, and it was just like heather and brambles and stuff at either side, so you had to stick to the path, and I had about 30 or 40 cattle coming towards me, so they were all black, brown, lovely and fluffy, and I'm like, channel my inner Catherine, and I'm like, good morning. I was like, you going for your breakfast? That's lovely. All this time my heart was going through the roof, and I was like, it's fine, it's just cows. But they were breathing, like we were that close, they were then breathing on my leg, and I could feel, and I'm like, so, and into the heather, because I thought, no, I just can't deal with this. But trying to get through that, and I went, no, I'm going back on the path. I was back on the path, so they're going in the opposite direction, and I'm trying to get through them, and the next minute I'm looking up, because I had the poles, but I didn't want to frighten them, because there was quite a lot of calves. And I was like, right, it's the calves and the cow, and they're fine. Next minute I looks up, there's this big black, and I thought cow. Then I sees the ring in the nose, and I was like...
And then did you check its undercarriage?
I was a bit and the ring gave away. I was like, no, that is a bull. That's a bull. And I was like, I can't, the fear, right? So I went back in, I went, I'll go back in the heather. I'll just deal with the brambles. So the cows and the calves, they just moseyed along, but the bull just kept staring at me, and the gate wasn't that far away, so I got to the gate. Next minute the phone goes, so it's Spine headquarters, and they're like, Gillian, are you okay? And I'm like, good morning. I was like, how are you? I was like, I'm okay. I was like, are you okay? And this woman, I mean, I'm laughing now, but she was like, Gillian, where are you? And I went, I'm not being funny, but you're looking at my tracker. I'm hoping you can tell me where I am, because I've got no idea. And she went, oh, you need to get off the course. We need to get you off the course, she says. We've had a few phone calls from a few runners, and there's an angry herd of cows, and there's quite a danger, so we need to get you moved and get you away from them. And I'm like, so I'm turning around, looking at the gate, looking at the herd of cows, and I went, I'm okay. I went, I've came through them. And he was like, no, you can't go through them. And I went, I've gone through them. And there was like a 15 or 20 minute gap from where I was to where I was shown in the tracker. So them sitting in headquarters had a few phone calls from a group of runners that had a bit of bother with these cows, and they thought they'd saw my dot and went, she's just going to hit them. So basically they wanted me to come off or stay wherever till they get someone down to move all the cows to get me to safety. If that phone call had came through like 10 or 15 minutes earlier, I wouldn't have budged, or I might have just went, it's okay, I'm off. Like, somebody can come and collect me. If I got a phone call like that would have put the absolute fear of God into me. So, yeah, that was, thankfully I had got through it
I like to think that I'm quite. You hate cows.
Hate them.
I like to think I'm pretty cool with cows, but Rob, you might think that I'm not so cool with cows.
No, you're pretty
Do
useless.
you know what it means when the herd of cows is lying down?
It's going to rain.
Well done, Sarah. I only learned that from my recce's.
How
I
would
thought
you
that was
check
a
the
lot of money.
undercarriages though in the rain? That's the thing.
No, I'm not checking the undercarriage.
You can lift
my
up the tail. Oh,
It honestly
whoops.
sounds like
Sorry, sir.
you've had more adventures on this 1 week on the spine than a lot of people would have
Ever.
in 5-10 years.
Ever.
It's incredible. So spine box is ticked, or at least some of spine boxes ticked. Now, you don't have to divulge any information that you don't want to, but do you feel satisfied with that? Do you think you'd ever have a temptation to return or do the winter version?
I absolutely have no inkling to do the winter version because the thought of like yak tracks and stuff on your feet, and they're sore enough when you're going out doing like 10 or 20 mile, your feet are there painful enough, and the thought of going on those flagstones when it could be like skitey and ice, and that does not appeal to me. Although I'll say never because I always said that about the summer spine. I would like to go back, I think, and do the north, and do the North Challenger. What's that, 160 miles?
168, 160, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a phenomenal event. And I think it's one of the things that was such an adventure that there's so many races out there. Part of me kind of thinks, as much as I loved it, but when I say why would I go back, I'd have a dozen reasons why I would go back. But there are so many other adventures that I think I'd like to maybe try. So, but I've put myself down for volunteer, and I'm hoping I get picked for next year. So I'd like to just give something back and spend. I think it would be good being a volunteer for 3 or 4 days to see that other side of it. You know.
Yeah.
Popping blisters.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be right in there with my needle, my fleecy web.
Oh, amazing. So, last thing from us. You won't know about this because I didn't send the questions over. I didn't send these particular questions over. We do a quick fire round, which is literally about 10 questions and just very, very short answers. Like,
and then think of an example. Then it's like part of the game.
Okay. But anyway, it's like 5-second answers.
Right.
So, if Rob, do you want to start? And we'll just go Rob, Sarah, Max, Rob, Sarah, Max.
Sure. So first question, bucket list race.
I'd like to try a backyard ultra. Don't know which one, but I'd like to try one.
Tunes, podcasts, or silence on long runs?
It's usually podcasts and radio. I listen to quite a lot of radio, depending on what time of day it is. But usually podcasts.
Favorite post-race meal?
Probably my husband's lasagna.
Oh, that's a good show.
It's better than Alston. Sorry, but
most underrated bit of kit.
We might have covered this one.
Fleecy web.
Can I say fleecy web?
Yeah.
Fleecy web. And I think we could guess this one, but I'm going to ask it: hot or cold weather racing forever?
See that? I'd go hot. I would go hot because I did Ho Chi Minh City Marathon a few years ago, and that was toasty, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. So I'd go hot.
Sunrise or sunset runs?
Definitely sunrise.
Yeah.
At 5 a.m.
5 a.m.
Yeah, at 5 a.m.
First ultra run you ever DNF'd or came close if you haven't?
I haven't. And I wouldn't even say I would say the spine was close to a DNF. It was close. It was taking it to the full, but it was never going to be a DNF.
Fair enough. We'll leave it there.
Good answer.
Things you always forget to pack on race day. Fleecy web.
See?
Would that be your answer?
Probably would be. No, yeah.
And then lastly, do you have any irrational pre-race superstitions or rituals? Or maybe they're not irrational.
Oh, I do.
Oh gosh, the facial expression. Don't have to share.
She's going to go there. No, you're thinking of your socks and whatever. I curl my eyelashes.
Oh,
We haven't
okay.
had that one before.
No, we haven't had that one before.
No, why? Where's that come from?
I don't know. I just remember doing it. It was in London years and years ago, London Marathon. And I remember curling my eyelashes, and my husband was like seriously? And I was like, oh, I need to curl my eyelashes. And it was a bit of a standing joke. But that standing joke is now in, that's something subconscious that I've never thought about. But I would feel slightly off kilter if I stood at the ideal and my eyelashes hadn't been curled. So,
Okay.
curl my eyelashes.
And you'd be having to say to David Miller or another photographer, whoa, hang on a second. Not at the moment.
Wait till I just curl my eyelashes. There you go.
Oh, brilliant.
Well, what a way to end the podcast on curled eyelashes.
Yeah. And with that, we're done. We're out of questions. It's been
Epic.
super interesting, very boring. When Debbie recommended that we had a chat with you, it was like something I wanted to do, and it definitely hasn't disappointed. It's been brilliant. Thank you so much for giving up your time.
No, it's been a pleasure. It's been good meeting you all. And I think my final question to you all will be, are you thinking, well, you've mentioned, Rob, that you're thinking about it. Would you, either or all of you, consider entering?
That's a good question. Well,
It's going to have to happen at some point. I'm terrified of it, and now we've got no excuses. As I said, I would have thrown my toys out of the pram. I mean, obviously you didn't, but I think halfway through your first story, that would have been me. I'd be like, no, I've had enough. I can't be bothered anymore. Take me home.
We'll have a chat, Rob, and you put that name in, we'll have a wee chat to just iron out that mentality just to get that right, because you're not throwing any toys out of pram. You get to cut,
No, well, I do like to throw it. It's part of the process. I get to about mile 70 and I'm like, it's about time now. And then if I've got a pacer with me, I'm like, this is going to be a rough 30 minutes, all right?
Sarah?
I'm on the waiting list for Spine Challenger South for January. Yeah, for January. Just being a teacher, it's quite hard to get all the time and stuff off work. So I thought we would just try the South and see. Yeah, that's me. Max?
I'd love to, but I've got a bit of a mashed foot, so that sort of time on feet isn't really going to be something that will work for me. But if it wasn't for that, it would be something that I would love to. I'd love to consider. Yeah.
I would just say for anyone that thinks, even if they think there's no way I could, I would just say be brave enough, and wreck it as much as you can, and be brave enough to put your toes in the start line and give it a bash.
I think you're inspirational, Gillian. Your stories have been incredible, and huge congratulations for an incredible journey.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Echo that. Congrats. Been fab chatting. I look forward to seeing what you get up to next, and thank you very much for coming on the pod.
Thank you for having me. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Don't go yet.